strangest blower fan problem. Now, I try to make these videos for people that are new to getting classic Mercedes. So I'm doing this maybe for some of you that are less experienced with the quirks of these cars. And one of the things that I've observed about, I don't know, 1 out of every 15 or 1 out of 20 cars is this weird quirk with the blower motor, where you turn the key on, you start the engine, you go to push your automatic climate control buttons and nothing happens. And then you take your key and you turn it back like 1 degree, like a little tiny click, engine still running, ignition still on, and suddenly everything comes on. And when this happens, a lot of people can't understand why it happened or where the genesis of the problem is. So today we're going to look at the ignition switch and how to actually get to it and replace it. This part, by the way, the first thing you need to know is when you go to unplug it, if you have an older car, like an older 126 or 123, you've got to turn the key to the number 1 position so that you can access this little plug. There's a little plug here that spins in back, and it will only, the plug will only come off if it's in, I think it's the number 1 position. Let's check. Let's get my Swiss Army knife out here and check. This is probably a bad use of a Swiss Army knife, but what I'm doing is I'm going to turn this until it's horizontal with the little mark, because it may actually be position 2. Sometimes I'm wrong about stuff, you know. It's like that whole thing of like, oh, I forgot this or I forgot that, but I think it may actually be position 2. Anyway, just be careful of this little security connector. I think it's position 1, but it might be position 2. I'm not sure. Sometimes I just don't know things. Now, the way this thing is installed in the back of your ignition switch, it's kind of hard to get out. This is a replacement switch from a 560 SL R107. It's one of the easier ones to work on, so you can actually leave the steering lock in the car. But inside the switch, people go, where are the screws? Well, you have to unplug the main plug, and by the way, I recommend you disconnect the battery for that. And then deep in these little holes, there's usually a flat head screw. Originally, there were flat head screws. And replacement ignition switches, they're Phillips head screws. I highly doubt that a car like this or an ignition switch like this would need a replacement switch. Now, the part number that you're going to order, which is perennially available from Mercedes, is a 202 chassis part number, because this switch was used all the way through 1995 or 96 or something like that, and you can see it doesn't have the little security. So you just unplug this, and then when you put it back on, people wonder, how does it line up? Well, there's like a little security indentation here, and the way that looks on the outside is this. There's like an alignment pin. So the alignment pin and the little boss in the housing have to line up. And that's how you know you're in the correct position. Now, people ask, what do I do if I can't get to it from behind? Well, you have to pull the whole ignition switch. So I have a few videos about this, but basically you have to pull your lock tumbler out. There are a lot of videos on YouTube about removing the lock tumbler, but basically you take this thing, stick a paper clip in here, turn the key to position 1, and then there's a little hole here that'll push down a little locking tab, and then you can start unscrewing this black thing, and it comes out with the key. Then you can unbolt a clamp right here that goes inside the dash. It's held in place with a 10mm bolt, and if the ignition should be in position 1, so you could push this tab in and slide it out of the column. That's not a very good explanation, by the way. I'm just giving you the basics, but there are a lot of write-ups on removing the entire switch on Bin's World and some other interesting forums. One of the reasons I bring this up, though, is because I see a lot of people that get absolutely hosed or waste a lot of their own time trying to resolve this issue because they don't realize it's an ignition switch. So they replace a blower fan. They send their push button controller out to be rebuilt. I've seen some guys even replace their blower fan resistor group, which is in the front right fender if you have a 123, or in the relatively inaccessible place of under the brake booster if you have a 126. So anyway, that's kind of the gist of where your blower fan suddenly magically goes when it cuts out. I hope you guys like this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're supporting us on Patreon, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next video. And always try to research problems like this, weird little problems, because usually they're tied to one inexpensive component instead of one really expensive one. All right, we'll see you in the future. Thank you.